Hey guys, welcome back to the channel. If you can see through this window here, I don't know how well you can see that, probably not at all. I'll get a proper clip in a minute, but I'm just parked up at Bamburgh Castle, northeast coastline. I'm sure many of you are familiar with it. And the plan today is 15 photos, one location, episode, I want to say 11, could be 12. I will talk a little bit about how I edit when we have crazy, just straight up blue sky like this. Other than that, not many other talking points, but I'm going to stop rambling now and let's go find coffee and take some photos. Coffee acquired, and I thought I'd just hang around in the little village area for a bit and see if I can get a few photos before moving back towards the castle. So I'm framing my first shot up here. I really like the light falling onto the side of the phone box there, and I can spot two people in the distance just walking towards me. And now where the light is falling from the right hand side of the frame here, it's cutting down across that top of that house and hitting the grass that you can see on the floor there, which means the closer they get to me, the light is eventually going to just hit and peak the top of their heads, because they'll be taller than the shadow area, if that makes sense. Okay, next scene that I really liked here, mainly because you never really see many photos of the castle from inside the village, and that's probably for obvious reasons because it's very chaotic, but I quite like that sometimes, so I tried my best here to minimize the scene down and try and keep the edges nice and tidy. I did want to keep those two patches of grass on the floor in the frame because I think they mirror each other quite nicely. So on the left hand side, I made sure to frame just to the edge of that chimney that you can see, so it's nice and tidy on that side. And then on the other side, unfortunately, I couldn't cut all of the cars out, so I decided to cut through that front white car just to kind of minimize them. You can still see them in the frame, but they're not too heavily involved. Stepping back a little bit from that last photo that I took, I noticed that you could see part of the castle through this sort of stone structure, monument type situation. And now I really like this because it's a unique vantage point and it also shows great framing, but unfortunately that car in the distance is obviously a bit annoying. And secondly, I really wanted something interesting to happen inside that window, maybe a person crossing the street or a biker going through the frame, but I was stood here for ages, nothing really happened, so I just took this as a remembrance more than anything. Alright, little wander around the village, complete, coffee complete, and now I've walked over to what is probably considered the less appealing side of Bamburgh Castle. Definitely the side that's less photographed, but me being me, I'd rather challenge myself and try and get something from the more challenger side. But also it's tactical because the sun is right all the way up there. So shooting back from the other side of the castle in this direction, I would be shooting directly into the sun, which does not look pleasing at all in this current situation anyway, of course. Other situations it can work, right now it doesn't. I do quite like this here where you can see, I don't know how well you can see in the camera there, the sand path just leading up there directly in front of the castle. So I might try and frame something up here quickly. This is probably going way off topic, but in the past, for the majority of the time that I've spent learning photography and practicing photography, I've been someone that shoots in the summer and the autumn and loved it. But last couple of years, I've swayed way more towards winter, and I'm kind of looking forward to winter coming back this year, as much as I hate the energy bills and being freezing cold in the house. How pleasing is this sound, by the way? Don't know why, just love that. Anyway, okay, sun's popping out in about a couple of seconds. So what I'm looking at next here, I'm just waiting for the sun to pop back out from the clouds that's behind me, but I'm looking at framing up this gate on the left hand side of the frame and Bamburgh Castle on the left hand side of the frame, and then we've got this sand path that runs over this side here, which I think looks pretty nice. Now I'm gonna probably shoot it at like 16 or 20 millimeters so we can get a nice big wide scene in here, which I don't actually do very much anymore, but I think right now this warrants it, especially because we want to fit in so much in the frame. You see why I hate the viewfinder on this camera. Situated there, so if you're wearing a hat because you can't bother to do your hair like me, and you go to look through the view... Crap design. I'm going to pop my head over this hill and just have a quick cheeky little peek at the beach, because you just never know, do you? Oh, two people are about to cross here. No, that's not it. That's it though. Yes, please. Thank you very much. So we can talk all day in photography about, you know, what camera settings people like to use, which mode they like to shoot in on the dial, what camera they're using, what lens they're using, what aperture they like to shoot at, and so on and so forth, and how they like to edit their images. But the problem is, if you're not well versed in actually noticing something that looks good, regardless of how good you are at a camera, you're going to miss it. You could have 20 years of experience shooting in a studio setting and have never taken a photo outside, and then you walk along somewhere and you completely miss photos and completely miss the stuff that look good. So I think probably I'm starting to realize more and more as the years go by and the longer I do photography, that the optimum number one skill at the top of your list is probably actually just knowing when a scene looks nice and just being able to see it with your eyes. Just walking along, noticing that looks visually pleasing, and being able to then throw in all the other skills that you've got, like framing, selecting the right settings, on all the technical bits and bobs. But if you haven't got the aesthetic, the visual ability to see a scene that looks beautiful, then the chances are you're not going to get a beautiful photo. So, little hut here at the side of the road, or beach, shall we say, and Bamburgh Castle up there, as you can see. I've shot this before and it looks like it's been painted, which is quite nice actually. I'm thinking probably just get a nice angle here where I can see the front and the roof at the same time. The classic vantage point that I've took photos from many times before, and many other photographers have as well, but I really like the conditions on this day, so I'm going to go ahead and take the classic shot again. I'm going to go portrait and then landscape here. So basically what I'm looking at is framing the hut on the bottom left hand side of the frame and Bamburgh Castle on the top right hand side of the frame, giving us a diagonal split, which always works really well and gives you a pleasing composition. So I'm just going to wait for a nice gust of wind to come. This is where it goes like sunny and no wind comes. Come on, wind. Okay, that's probably enough for a bit of motion. This scene that you're seeing here is more to make it all about Bamburgh Castle and the environment that Bamburgh Castle sits in, rather than bringing another element in like the hut from the previous photo. But what I'm really looking at here is the break in the reeds and grass there that allows that sort of break of sand to come through and act as almost a mirror underneath Bamburgh Castle. And what I mean by that is, from left to right you've got this heavy reed grassy area that comes up and gets higher and higher, and then as Bamburgh Castle comes into the frame it dips down and gets lower, and I think that works really well just to make the image feel nice and thoughtful and composed and balanced. Okay, firstly, those of you that have made it this far into the video, you're a legend. Thank you so much for sticking till the end. And secondly, let's jump into Lightroom here and I'll very quickly show you how I handle skies that are very harsh and over the top and almost HDR-y. So this sky in the image here of the gate in front of Bamburgh Castle is by far my most hated sky when it comes to taking photos. So this is not going to be a complete A to B edit and a full workflow showcase of how I edit images, because then this video would be about 2 hours long, and I'm very conscious of the fact that people aren't going to stick around and watch a video that long. So I'm just going to quickly cover how I would handle this sky. So I would go up to the masking panel and select my sky like so, and straight away I'm going to drop the contrast all the way down to -100, which might seem a little bit crazy, but it's not going to actually affect it too much. It's just going to soften it out and slightly reduce that saturation a bit. It's worth noting that whether you add or take away contrast, you are also adding or taking away saturation. If I bring that all the way up, you'll see the blues get a lot stronger. Bring that all the way down, you'll see the blues get desaturated. The next thing I'm going to do, just because I don't want it to be too flat, is bring the whites up ever so slightly, maybe to about 20, and it gives it a little bit of a pop back, even though we have reduced that contrast quite drastically. And then this is where the major change comes in. So you want to go down to the effects tab inside your mask, and I'm going to drop the texture to probably about -50, -47, about there. That looks good to me. And then same with the clarity, but we're going to go, let's go about -30 with the clarity, and then dehaze as well. And this is where the big difference changes. So we'll go to about, should we go -27, 28 for that perhaps. So let's turn that mask on and off and I'll show you the effects. So there it is with it off, and it's very HDR, very over the top, very sharp and detailed, which isn't always a bad thing, but it's not what I tend to like in photography. So let's turn the mask back on and we soften that sky out, really reduce its impact on the image, and then we can go ahead and start working on the rest of the frame and allow the subject matter to do the talking rather than the sky. Of course, if this was the northern lights or a beautiful sunrise or sunset, I'm probably not going to do something like that to my sky because I want it to do the talking. But on a midday shot like this, well, it was around about 10 o'clock in the morning, I think, on a day like this where the sky to me looks quite ugly, that's normally my approach. So hopefully you found it helpful. And with all that being said, thank you so much for watching this video. I really appreciate it. I'm going to link another one right here that I highly recommend watching next. And as always, I'll see you in the next one.